most people in the population are not designed to be business owners. And unfortunately, in the naturopathic profession, what we saw was like, you were kind of brainwashed into thinking business was easy, and you end up creating your own job.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd like to invite you to join this community to get more content that will help you become more prepared and confident about your business's overall cybersecurity and technology posture. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Season 2. Now, if you could take a moment and click on the subscribe button, we would certainly appreciate your support. Now, as always, to make our legal friends happy, although we are arming you with knowledge and we're going to provide valuable information here, it is purely for educational purposes and should not be considered legal advice. All right, so today we have two guests, Dr. Matthew Hernandez and Dr. Alexandra Mayer. Now, both Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Mayer are physicians at Ethos Integrative Medicine and CEOs of a private consulting firm, Naturopathic CEO. Now, we're going to cover a lot of ground. So in this episode, I want you to sit back, relax, maybe grab a beverage of your choice, and let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and welcome Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Mayer.
Hey, thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time. And this is going to be like kind of a new type of episode for us. So I can't wait to dive into it. When we had the pre-interview, you guys were telling me about stuff I was not aware of. But before we get started, could you do me a favor? Give our listeners just a quick intro, maybe a background about yourselves. We'll get into the journey next. So who is Dr. Hernandez and who is Dr. Mayer?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so we co-own Ethos Integrative Medicine. We're actually husband and wife. And at Ethos, we specialize in regenerative medicine and longevity medicine. So we operate mostly outside of the insurance realm, in order to get our patients the best results possible. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And so when we were starting our practice, we noticed a number of gaps that exist in the healthcare system. And so we can get into that a little bit more, but essentially what we wanted to do was be different than a lot of the other clinics that exist out there. And the way that you do that is you get outside the insurance realm. Mm-hmm. And you can, you have a little bit more freedom on how you can treat patients and structure your practice so that it gives patients better care overall.
Absolutely. I was interested to learn more about that, and you guys have a lot to say about it. But so let's dive into some of the challenges, though, that would probably include this insurance concept that you're talking about. But let's start. I read a bit about you guys prior to us meeting here today, and I love the bio because it kind of reminds me of myself, right? You guys dove head first into building a practice, and I'm sure you read all the books and attended some business schools or whatever, and you always get some twists and turns in growing a business, right? A practice is a business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you could maybe tell us some of the challenges, tell us about your journey a little bit, about how you grew your practice.
Yeah, so we both moved to Arizona, particularly for medical school. So when we graduated, we kind of thought that we'd go back to our respective hometowns, and we did not do that. And so we didn't know anybody. All of our med school counterparts were starting practices or joining practices or moving back to their hometowns. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, all right, if we're going to do this, we're going to figure it out. We really learned business through doing, through asking a lot of questions, through being very, very fortunate that I don't know how this happens to us, but people just offer to kind of help us and to guide us. And we've had some awesome mentors along the way. And having, I think, a vision of what we wanted to bring to patients. I think that there is, in medicine, patients come honestly last sometimes. And I don't think that doctors mean to do that. It's just the way the system is set up,
Okay.
right? So here's the hoops that you jump through this hoop, jump through this hoop, jump through this hoop, jump through this hoop. Even though doctors know that realistically, the end goal, they know what they need. They know the imaging that they need. They know the labs that they need, but they can't get there because insurance dictates care. And so we had a vision of helping our patients
Wow.
in the way that is best for them. And so we just got out there, learned business, and figured it out. Yeah.
Now, did you guys, how long were you practicing prior to, going sort of head first into the free of insurance concept, which we're going to dive into here shortly. But were you trying to do it the traditional way first for a while?
No,
Nope.
we decided that up front that we weren't going to do that. So
Okay.
we jumped straight into the non-insurance based world.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And so growing this business, I align it to like the School of Hard Knocks, which I graduated cum laude. But I agree. And by the way, I did a whole episode on mentorship. So if you guys were lucky enough to have a mentor or a number of mentors, it saves business owners so much time, and also being part of associations and whatnot. Are you guys part of other associations? I know you have a consulting business, which we will be talking about as well. But do you participate in other types of things?
We do.
Yeah.
So we are very active in our entrepreneur organization community, which has been honestly a game changer for us. I think that oftentimes, especially in highly regulated industries like medicine, there are certain ways that you have to do things, right? But
Okay.
I also think that sometimes the certain ways that you have to do things limits kind of creativity and the ability to help people. So it's been really, really interesting to peek into other businesses and other industries,
Okay.
and get ideas from that. So we're very, very active in that. And then we're very active in a number of kind of the medical industries,
Of
like
course. Yeah.
A4M is one of the biggest um, anti-aging kind of
Conferences,
conferences,
organizations. Yeah.
organizations in the industry.
Sure.
Same thing with there's a bunch in like the regenerative orthopedics
Got it.
world that we are part of. So we're part of all that.
Awesome. Is there any particular lesson that you two guys, when you guys are having dinner and you tend to go back and talk about, God, thank goodness we learned that, or although this was one of the toughest points in our journey, we learned so much from it. Is there any one that maybe stands out to either of you?
Oh God, a lot of them. So I'll start with what's in more recent memory. So we went to an event last night, and we got to see the speaker of Uggs, the boot.
Yeah,
So he the founder of Uggs. We got to see him speak,
he's a surfer.
and he actually had. As he was telling his story, which is a fascinating story, but as he was telling his story, there was a number of like key points that I wrote down that I think are they're things that we know, but they're always good reminders to hear. And so what one of those was really knowing, like really understanding your customer. A lot of people go and think that they know what their customer wants,
Right.
and oftentimes, especially as the business owner, you can get into this weeds of going and saying, "Oh, they want all these additional things that they, realistically they don't even know about." And sometimes you're accurate, sometimes you're not. But really, always going back to that message of what is it that my customer is looking for? Who is the customer that I'm speaking to? And really understanding that and refining that process. We refine ours every year, but constantly refining that is really what drives everything. With your what do you call it, with the business. I mean,
Right.
if you think of like, what is it the customer wants and like how they want to be communicated with, how they want a service to be delivered, the type of service they're looking for. If you understand that shapes the rest of your business, right? And so it all goes back to really understanding what it like who your target market is and what it is that they're looking for, and you shape everything around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you guys get pulled. Let's say a customer say, "Oh, it'd be great if you did this," or a new vendor, with the greatest, whatever technology it would help patients with, and you look at it and go, "Oh God, if we add that, that'd be fantastic." And then you can find yourself too spread out. Do you guys experience that too? Like,
All the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Over time, I use the analogy of a tree a lot.
Okay.
Over time, I think we've been growing this tree, and we've been really conscious of the way that we wanted to grow it. But if we go back to 2020, we got this opportunity to bring on 3 contractors that had been in the industry a very long time. They actually taught us when we were in school. They've been practicing way longer than us, and they brought their practices over to our practice as contractors. It was a really, really interesting learning opportunity for us
Is that
because
like a merge kind of like
it's
thing?
kind of like a merge, but at the end of the day, they kept their patients. We're kind of
Right.
just we were helping them with the logistical side of
Ah,
performing their business.
Yeah.
I can see where that might have led to you doing your consulting, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that route again, honestly.
Okay.
Like, looking back, it's one of the things I wouldn't do again. But what I noticed is that the tree kind of grew on its own in a very sporadic way from that choice. And so, because they're bringing in patients, their patients are bringing in patients, right? And when you get a referral from somebody, they're referring somebody like them. And
Hmm.
so they came in with this pool of patients that wasn't really our pool of patients. And then those pool of patients started to multiply. And then we're servicing these people that have different expectations, different wants, different needs, right? So then we're starting to have conversations about running labs through insurance, for example. We've not never had that conversation, because we do offer patients and we're good at like helping to navigate that, but we're really good at having the conversation of like why you might choose a different path, and they weren't. And so there was just this multiplication factor of things that we didn't honestly see coming, that really changed the business. So now we're at this tree point of like the tree's pretty big, but we got to prune it back to get it to be the size and shape that we want it to be.
You're describing like exactly what I was talking about that many businesses go through. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
tremendously. And in fact, what we do with cybersecurity, right? We provide a whole stack of different things for our clients. And sometimes the clients will say, "Oh, we just don't need this one piece. Can you take that out?" And for years, we were like, "Oh, okay, we'll do that." And then we'd make mistakes because we'd have one client that was different, so different than the other clients.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
patient care needs to be patient care. You guys need to deliver the patient care you guys have set up, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when,
Great.
when we start to deviate from that, that's when stuff starts to break and we
Mhm.
get stressed out. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So, all right, well then let's dive into this insurance thing. So, why did you guys decide to go the way you did? You prefaced it a bit like they dictate the medical care as compared to you. The doctor should dictate that with their patient. But could you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, so that's the number one thing. I think that the doctor should dictate the care, right? That's why the patient is seeing the doctor. And there's a middleman in your care, and your care is designed for the middleman. And so we would have a lot of experiences, like one of the experiences that Matt had with one of his patients. Patient needed an MRI, and we ended up getting to like 5 weeks, and he had failed all this stuff, and he was at 5 weeks. He was still in a ton of pain, and finally Matt got what's called a peer-to-peer with insurance. So more or less, you get on the phone with the doctor and you go over the case, and the doctor says yes or no. The insurance thinks this is correct. So he gets to the end of the call, and the insurance doctor goes, absolutely. Makes sense. You got the right diagnosis. I think that's what's going on. He absolutely needs an MRI. Matt goes, great. That means you're going to cover it, right? He goes, oh, no, we haven't hit 6 weeks and you haven't failed this and blah, blah, blah. So Matt goes, are you kidding? And he's like, nope, we're not going to cover it. He goes, fine. My patient's frustrated. What's their copay? Doctor goes, copay is $500. And he goes, great. What's my patient going to pay cash? $250. And so the patient was actually going to pay double to go through insurance, to also be in pain for longer than 6 weeks. And not to mention the time, energy, money spent wasting on all these like failed treatments. And so there's a lot of those kind of examples, right? Right now, we are currently really struggling with pharmaceutical, like with pharmacies, like not filling prescriptions that we're sending in and things like that. And we're getting like pre-authorizations for regular medications that really should be covered through your insurance literally out the wazoo. And so what happens is patients show up and the pharmacy goes, no, we're just not going to fill this medication that you need. And it all has to do with who's in the middle. And so we are happy to help our patients navigate that. Like, honestly, if labs and imaging is cheaper through your insurance, we are happy to navigate it. We're happy to actually put that in, but we are willing to have that conversation, because patients don't know, right? Like, I think there's just this aspect of things are put into people's heads, and that's what we go off of, right? But if we go to the example of like car insurance, if you were to get in a mile fender bender, you're not going to put that through your insurance because it's going to be more expensive. But if your car's totaled, you're absolutely going to put that through your insurance. And I think that we have to bridge that gap.
So that example, I was brewing a question here, a follow-up question to this, and that, like, I personally have like a high deductible medical care, and I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I can go to a doctor like you, and I can just get the care I want. I have to hit a threshold. I think I've hit it once. So when you're talking about insurance, like auto insurance or even homeowners insurance, you don't want to put that small stuff through.
No.
Because your rates are going to go up, and you're not going to possibly going to get the care you want. So is that sort of a good analogy on that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really good analogy for that piece. And I think to add on to what Alex said too is like when you look at the healthcare model as a whole, and look at like a patient's health cycle where, let's say it's on a spectrum. One end of the spectrum, it's someone that's very sick, bedridden in the hospital, kind of stuff like that. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have someone that's completely optimized and feels amazing. Like they feel great, they feel the way they want to, they look the way they want to, all that stuff. In the middle is where the majority of the population lies, and that's, they're functional, they feel good, like they can get through the day, but there's another level that they're unaware of how they can feel because they haven't experienced it, and we tend to get used to what, we tend to set our own normals and get used to those. It's kind of like the what do you call it, easiest way to cook a frog is to like boil it slowly or something like that. I forget what the exact saying is.
Yeah, they won't realize it's getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah, and so that happens to people with their health on average. And what the insurance system is designed to do is take people from bedridden, like hospitalized, to that average middle normal set point, and it stops there. And what we wanted to do was take people from that normal set point to this optimized set point on the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
And in order to deliver that type of care, you have to function outside of insurance because insurance doesn't recognize any of that or cover it.
I wonder, I think so many people are afraid of the type of insurance I have. It doesn't, like, high deductible could just mean a few $1,000s. It doesn't mean like $20,000.
It could be 5,000 or 6,000, and so like a lot of our patients, just like I'm sure in your case, like they choose to get that insurance plan. They have whatever the deductible is, and then probably then a little bit extra saved up, in case that it needs to be used.
Right.
And then outside of that, you use your normal finances to pay for your more proactive care, which is going to stop you from needing the
So after a couple of years, you have plenty of a war chest for it. And even with medication, right? Like, I was reading the other day that if you show an insurance card to a pharmacist, they are not allowed to talk to you about a cash price.
That's correct.
No, they're not allowed, not unless you ask.
You have to
so
ask
you have
specifically.
to actually ask.
The
What is
gag order or
cash price?
something.
And
Yeah.
then even recently, more recently, so it used to just be that they'd be like, okay, you asked, I'll give you the cash price. Now I've had insurance, like pharmacists say, no, I'm just not going to give it to you. Which is sad because I've had a lot of patients where they are saving money. Like I had a patient who was on generic progesterone and she came in and she told me, can you prescribe me something different? It's too expensive. And I was shocked because it's generic progesterone. And I looked it up on my app, my GoodRx app. And I said, you should be paying this much. And she was paying triple.
Yeah.
And so it's those kind of educational pieces that people just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah, so that's very interesting. I hope this helps our audience understand this a little better. Now, you guys aren't busy enough, right? Running a practice and building your business and taking other doctors in and working with their patients and all those headaches, working with your tree. So after building the successful practice that's still growing in 2022, something happened, right? You guys made, is that year correct? You made a leap.
Yes.
And established a consulting business, right? And
Uh-huh.
so I think tell us about that. I don't need to preface it too much.
Yeah. So I think what we started to see in the world of medicine is kind of two things, right? I think especially in kind of the naturopathic field, there are a lot more good jobs like coming with a lot more practices and people who actually understand business creating good jobs. And that is one of our missions here at Ethos. I think there's people that are not designed to, most people in the population are not designed to be business owners. And unfortunately, in the naturopathic profession, what we saw was like, you were kind of brainwashed into thinking business was easy. And you end up creating your own job. And so what people end up doing is they end up creating the worst job they've ever had. They have the worst boss, they have the worst hours, and they have the worst pay. And so we really wanted to educate people who actually want to run good businesses on our school of hard knocks, because we had to learn it the hard way, so that there can be better jobs in the profession. And since then, we are expanding this out to other cash pay medical doctors, because there is a lot of doctors that are bravely leaving insurance. They are bravely saying, hey, I want to give good care. I want to give better care. This is what I'm looking for. But they don't, again, know how to run a business because they're not taught how to run a business. And so that was kind of our whole goal.
And and that's great. In my career, I work with many sizes of businesses. I mean, including one person businesses up to many hundreds of employee type businesses. But I always feel sorry for the one or two person businesses. They started it as a lifestyle, like you were talking about.
Yes.
And when they work 7/24 or 24/7, and they can never take a vacation, gets their phones firing off. If they took the hours worked and divided it by what they make, I mean, it's kind of scary. Do you guys work with all sizes of businesses, or just 5 doctors and larger, or whatever?
I mean, we've worked with all sizes. It's really just the right person.
Okay.
Like one of our docs that she's done just amazing. We worked with her since she was like in the infancy of her business.
Okay.
Like helped her with her marketing, and she's really just expanded. She's done really great on hiring. And to be honest, when she recently hired a doctor, got rid of that doctor because they weren't the right fit for her. But when she hires the doctor, she's going to be a badass clinic to work for.
Yeah.
And like, she's awesome. So we work with her. We have another clinic that is larger. Like, she has a number of employees, a number of providers that already work for her. And she needed help implementing the systems, because at the end of the day, that's what gives good care. I think that in medicine, a lot of people think about like, it's all about the doctor and it's all about the care that they give. It is, but what actually gives good care is the systems behind the scenes. And so like when we talk to patients about concierge medicine, one of the benefits of us is that we have a team. So instead of you being just reliant on calling us all the time, we have a whole team of people that can take care of them. And we have really well-oiled systems to allow them to do that. And like Matt said, we're constantly updating them. So we help doctors with that kind of thing, so that, because it's the back end of medicine that people don't realize. It's the paperwork, it's the letters, it's the request from the farm. It's all the stuff that gets super duper duper overwhelming if you don't have a way of navigating that.
It's so funny. Over the years, I've worked with, a number of doctors, and I've left doctors because of their front office.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, doesn't matter how good the doctor is, that'll make or break them.
I've loved my doctor, and the attitude that some people have is just, so I hope that's part of your training, is like, the way they answer the phone and the way they greet patients, and, like, we're the ones bringing, the money to keep this practice going. So, so that's great. All right. So we are a cybersecurity podcast. I mean, that's a pretty big focus for us. And as medical providers, I'm going to assume cybersecurity's got some of your attention, and using technology and how to protect your practice as well as your clients. And when we talked before the podcast, you guys were talking about EMRs, electronic medical records and keeping systems, and PMS, or practice management software. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the main concerns that we had coming out of school was, what do you call it? There were, you're graduating med school, you're starting your own practice, stuff like that. So your cost, you don't have a lot of money, so you want to make sure that you keep costs down, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that a lot of doctors did when they left and they started their own practice was they would sign up for certain EMR softwares, and that there were some that were free, and then there's others that you pay for, and stuff like that. And one of the big concerns that we had was, we found out when we were trying to select which one we wanted, that some of the free ones actually go and sell patient data. And it's in the contract that they have the right to do it if you register and put patient data in there. But that was something that we're very much against, and so we went with one that allows us to avoid that. Like, we pay for it, absolutely, but I'd rather pay for it and have patient data secure in that case, and not sold off. And so stuff like that was really important to us. And I think even in more recent events too, there's been what was it? There was an insurance company that got hacked, and they had
it knows SonoriQuest.
Oh, SonoriQuest. It was a lab company here in Arizona, and they got hacked, and a bunch of patient data got taken from there as well.
So it's interesting. There's actually, I was having a conversation with somebody else that was saying that in terms of healthcare data and healthcare hacks are actually getting bigger and bigger. It is something that scares me. It is something that I feel like most doctors are really not prepared to handle, right? We're not IT people at all. But I do think that there are small steps that you should take. So for example, we brought in genetic testing to the practice. We were looking for a couple things. We were looking for a genetic test that actually is actionable, because most of them give you the stupidest data ever that you can't do anything with and is useless, and you pay money for it. And it's interesting because there are a lot of online genetic things now where people are going and they're just like, oh, I'm going to get this swab, and I'm going to get my 5 genes, and I'm going to do whatever. But nobody's thinking about where that data goes. And so 23andMe, which is not one of the ones I'd recommend, but 23andMe actually had a huge data breach. And so one of the things that we looked for in ours was, are you selling data? And the company that we chose right now is not doing that, right? And more than that, they have this interesting system where they don't actually like when you put your data in, it's all done via barcode, and they actually make sure that you take a photo of your barcode with like your little number on it, because the connection of the barcode, like the actual like information in their portal, and then the information in the portal that comes to us as the doctor, it's separate. This is the extent of my cybersecurity knowledge.
Yeah, it's an
What I'm
encryption
saying
key is
right
what
now,
they're doing. Yeah,
but those kind of things are important.
Yeah.
Like you
Oh
need
yeah.
to be looking at those. And I don't think people are thinking about it. And I think especially with online testing, there's so many labs and stuff like that that people are just putting their stuff into without recognizing that this could have impacts, right? Because one of the things that happens is, and we're seeing it even with life insurance policies after kind of the last few years of health issues.
Mhm.
There's life insurance that's being denied based on what, like based on whether or not you're vaccinated and all that kind of stuff, right? And so who knows what they're going to find if they're starting to pull those records, and it could really have impacts that patients don't really think about. And so do we have all the answers? No, but we are at least thinking about it.
So yeah, it's I mean, I talk about this all day, every day, but
Enlighten
so what percent? I didn't know about the 23andMe and the Sonora Quest breaches, so that's scary. Did they get patient information on?
I
I
believe
think
so. Yeah, I'm
so.
almost positive they did.
I think so.
And there's like no repercussion probably, but
Right.
you know what percent of the doctors use the free type of tools like the EMRs and PMS systems? Do you have any data on that?
I don't know. No,
Mm-mm.
that would be good to know. We never we never went and looked for that data specifically, because it was like, okay, well, let's say the data came back with 65% of private clinics use free stuff. It's like, well, if 65% is doing it, is it really that bad? Like, I didn't want to justify anything, so I was like, no, I think it's bad. I'm just going to stop it there and move on from there. So
Yeah, I was just curious because if it's prolific, like, I'm sure we all know people using Google Gmail, including me, but I use it for junk, right? So
right.
there's no personal information that's going there, but people don't realize that they can scrape that data and monetize it and do whatever else that they do with it.
Yes.
And so when you have a paid service, do they still have that right? Have you noticed? And you have to be careful which one you choose because of that. Or if you're paying for your EMR or PMS system, is it for the most part they keep your data confidential?
To my knowledge, when we initially researched it, if you were paying for it, the data stayed confidential and it stayed unique to the clinic and the patient. Now, there's probably some outliers in that case,
Sure.
but yeah, in general, that's what I had saw when I was reading through some of the stuff.
So when people work with you then, and you're making recommendations for their technology,
Mhm.
I take it you've done that work. You know that as of this moment, let's say this tool is not selling their information. Do you help them with that, or is that something different?
I what do you call it? I don't go and try and figure out like all the different options they have. I just
No,
go.
but the major ones.
I kind of go with like, this is what we research and this is what we use as
Okay.
a result of that. Like there could be new alternatives that I don't know about for sure.
Yeah, and they can change their terms and
And there could be
conditions.
changes that we really aren't aware of. Like we don't pretend to be cybersecurity
Yeah.
experts. That's not our expertise. That's one of the things that we do in our practice is I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a cybersecurity expert.
We don't play one on TV, right?
Nope, not about it. And so, but because it's a tough world. Like it's a super tough world. I think you can do the best that you can, but things can change. Like even I'm sure with contracts with electronic medical records and with things, like things change, and so it is a tough world.
Yeah, and I'm sure similar to you guys, like what we find is if they believe nothing has happened to them, that they're safe.
Right.
So you might have a patient walk in that's within their appropriate height, weight combination, that they look healthy, but unless you run some tests on them, right, and some blood work and whatever else you do, right, then you can find out and give them advice. And even then, I'm sure you guys have done that and told people, hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing here. We need to adjust your diet, or you need to do more exercise, whatever it is. They may or may not follow it because they feel fine.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And so we have the same thing. Like, I have a person that does this. I've never been hacked that you know of.
Right.
So,
That's true. That's true.
that's what,
But like one question I have for you is like when you're looking at you obviously you work with a number of different businesses. When you're looking at cybersecurity for that business, and I don't know if you have any specific tips for like medical practices, but what are some of the things that you think, as business owners ourselves, we should be aware of and pay a lot of attention to with regards to our medical practice?
oh boy, how much time do we have? Let's see. What
Yeah.
comes to mind? Nothing in no particular order.
Okay.
Definitely make sure that you and your clients do the basics, like using very long, complicated passwords,
Mhm.
using a password manager to help you manage that. Never use a password more than once. Things like that help. Dual factor authentication. So any service, any banking that you do, make sure that you turn those things on. People hate it because it's an extra step, right? Never pay any vendors or send any money because of based on an email or a text. Always do a phone verification process. Call the known to be good number, and say, is this really you? Are you really asking for this money? Because
Yeah.
we're such an email world now. We're such a digital world. Oh yeah, I know that vendor. It's the right. It looks, yeah, that's valid. I do owe them money. I just don't remember the amount, and off it goes, and you've lost that money. And then lastly, I would say, at least annual penetration testing,
Mhm.
because technology changes and things that were turned off are now turned on, or you added a new device to your network, or you added a new software to your network, and you failed to do some important aspect that now has left you vulnerable. So these are inexpensive things to do that
That's great to
really help. Yeah. And your biggest risk is us, meaning you and your staff. I'm sure you guys are just like me. You probably are doing 5 things at any given moment, and that's when mistakes happen. And so we have a constant technology that tests our staff, that send them emails that are designed to trick them. So everybody keeps on their toes, right? But we don't make a big deal out of it. So if somebody gets nabbed, including me every now and then, we have fun with it. Yeah, we have fun with
know.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
nobody ever gets in trouble, but
They
it's
wear the
just,
dunce hat for the day.
yeah, it's just fun. Oh, they got Scott. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's fun. So hopefully that helped answer.
Yeah. No,
That was a good question.
I think those are good practices to implement. Is there a particular, you mentioned a password manager, is there a particular one you recommend? Obviously not sponsored or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I can just tell you the one we use
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
is 1Password.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah. They so far, knock on wood, have not been hacked yet.
Okay.
So LastPass was hacked, but they didn't get any passwords. It was just like billing information. So
Okay.
it's still a fine product. So.
Okay.
Well, this has been extremely insightful, and I really appreciate your time on this. Just wrapping up the episode, is there any advice you'd like to, share with fellow professionals to foster a growing business?
I think one of the biggest things that we've seen. So we have the fortunate ability to treat a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff, and I think just because we can relate so well to them. One of the things that we have seen, not only with ourselves but with our patients who are entrepreneurs, um, when they take that step to like start taking care of their health overall, they tend to see that translate into their business being
Interesting.
more successful, and that's something that we'll see people who take their health seriously, their business starts to go up, it stresses them out, or that they get too busy, and then they pause taking care of their health, and their business also plateaus, and then they take it serious again and prioritize it, and that improves from there. And so yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, then I would definitely go in and say to pay attention to how you're prioritizing your health, for sure.
That's great advice. That's really good advice, and I think it transition. In order to take care of someone else, you have to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
as a small or medium-sized business owner, I have to make it a priority to exercise every week because it is so easy to skip.
It
Yes,
is. Yeah.
it's so
I'll
easy.
just do these 3 emails, then I'll get to it, and then the phone rings, and then it's not happening. So I have to prioritize it. Yeah. So you have to as well.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, we've done the like Matt said, prioritize it, things go up, stop, do the dip. And so, we live it. We understand that things aren't always easy. We understand that life shifts and gives different priorities at different times. But I do think that in terms of if you're looking at the three areas of health or the three areas of your life as an entrepreneur, right? Like your family health, well, there's kind of four. There's like your spiritual health, your family health, your personal health, like your body, and then your business health. Your body kind of keeps the score for everything, for all four areas. And so prioritizing that gives outsized returns.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's great. All right. Well, this has been an amazing episode. And although we had this backdrop of a medical practice, it's just so valid for every kind of business out there. All businesses use technology.
Yes.
And they have to understand the risks involved with using those tools, like applications and hardware, right? I mean, everything has a computer chip in it nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then you have to be especially, I think, careful with the free tools, right? The free services, because as we all know, there is no free lunch out there, and they have to monetize it, right?
They have to monetize it, so
Yeah.
they're doing it a way that you're probably not going to like.
So yeah, you've got to understand all of these things, and make sure that they're not selling your confidential information, especially if you're a doctor, right? Because that could probably violate a few HIPAA compliance requirements. But I'm sure they're careful about it.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
sure they are, but still not what patients want.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I didn't even know that until you told me about it. It's scary. But all right, well, that's all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, stay safe.